The title of today's message is California's Top 2-Tier Primary System. Now, when California instituted the Top 2-Tier Primary System, we had a closed primary. Now, the reason that I stand in opposition to the Top 2-Tier Primary System here in California is because centrists use it in Sacramento to purge ideologues. Years ago, I'd read a couple articles. I forget where I read them. And one of them stated that has had an impact on liberal Democrats, but basically it's had a greater impact on conservative Republicans. So these people who claim to be centrist in Sacramento use the Top 2-Tier Primary System to control who's in Sacramento. Now, I understand that people don't like ideologues. I understand that. I'll give them that point. But ideologues do serve a purpose. Let's go back and let's look at Schwarzenegger. When Schwarzenegger, who was a horrible choice, but because of his star power, he defeated Gray Davis. Now, every single thing that they did in the legislature was fought over. And every time the bills or budgets were fought over in Sacramento, people complained to the press. And then the press reported it. And people in California found out. Republicans complained that Democrats weren't cooperating, and the press reported it. And people in California found out. Democrats complained to the press that Republicans were not cooperating or making deals, and complained to the press. So in essence, with the closed primary that we had, this meant that everything got debated. Democrats and Republicans here in the state of California used to go on broadcast media and everything was debated. Now everything's shut down. The point I'm making here is we now have the Nancy Pelosi rule. We have got to pass the bill in Sacramento to find out what's in it. There are many hundreds of bills in Sacramento that we don't find out about because there's no public debate. Democrats and Republicans, every time they write legislation, don't run up and down the state of California like they used to, campaigning on every single bill. So because Democrats and conservative Republicans fought over everything, we found out what was in every single bill, right down to the detail. Now that doesn't happen. So everything is closed up there in Sacramento. Usually when we find out about a bill, the press reports it, and it gets passed, and then we find out it's been passed, or it gets delayed by a few years, and then passed and implemented, or it gets put into a junk file, and it's brought up at the end of the session and voted on again when we don't know anything about it. This is the problem, as we know, with people who call themselves centrist. They never want to be held accountable for anything, and they never want you to question them. This is why, one of the reasons why, the Top 2-Tier Primary System has been a disaster here in California, because it's allowed these centrist politicians to purge ideologues. I'll give you an example. Travis Allen and Neil Kashkari. Now, Neil Kashkari ran against Brown and lost. But Democrats crossed over and voted out Travis Allen from Huntington Beach. They got rid of him because Kashkari was the weaker candidate. Then they voted out Kashkari. So they were able to eliminate 2 Republicans with 1 stone. This is why the top 2-tier primary system has to be reformed. Anybody who wants to run should be eligible to run and should not be purged by people crossing over. So the Democrats will use the top 2-tier primary system here in California to control the Republican they want sitting in Sacramento. So conservative Republicans get locked out and have a difficult time winning, or sometimes almost impossible to win, because Democrats will cross over and vote that guy out of office. This is why the California top 2-tier primary system needs to be reformed. Thank you for listening.